gonna have an unscripted, unfiltered chat about Shameless. For those of you that don't know, Shameless is my favorite television show of all time. This show shaped me as a person. It particularly the one and only Mickey Milkovich. Mickey showed me how it's okay to take time to move on, to wow, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Anyway, Mickey's really important to me. And now that season 11, the final season of Shameless, is done, I want to talk about my thoughts on season 11. If you remember, months and months ago, I uploaded a video talking about the season premiere. It was kind of very scripted. It wasn't completely scripted, but I talked about, I made a list of things that I wanted to discuss, and it was sorted by character and all this stuff. This is not that same kind of video because now I have a full picture. The show's done. Nothing else is coming. And I feel unsatisfied. You know, the last show that I loved that ended was a little known CW show, Supernatural. And we all know how that affected me. Go watch my video on that. It's also on my channel. It was really bad. And I was hoping, because the last season started right as Shameless or Supernatural was ending, I was hoping that this would somewhat make up for what Supernatural did. And I would say the ending was better than Supernatural, but at the same time, I'm left very unsatisfied. I'm left very sad. So, first of all, I cried through the whole thing. But there's some things in the finale that really bothered me. Let's start with Debbie. First of all, so the entire season, Debbie is fighting to keep her house. She's fighting to keep Lip from selling the house. This is her house. The entire season, she wants to live there. She doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave her family. And then Heidi comes along, and she's only in 2 episodes, right? Within 2 episodes, she convinces Debbie to move to Texas with her. So that's not great. Why did Debbie cave so easily to this random woman we don't know just because she ate her out? You know? Debbie's always been one for family, and now all of a sudden she's ready to leave? I don't love that. Second of all, let's talk about Mickey and Ian. Mickey and Ian, like I said, Mickey is really important to me, and something seemed off about the final scenes that Mickey and Ian had together. Now, I felt that something was off with them all season. There were high points and there were low points. The high point specifically being spoilers, obviously. Excuse me. The high point definitely being when Terry passed away and Mickey was kind of coming to terms with that. I think that was a really great episode, but definitely the highlight of the whole season for me. But in this most recent episode, yes, they have an anniversary party, but, and I saw a Reddit post last night that I feel like described it pretty spot on. They dumbed Mickey down. Now, Mickey was never the smartest character, you know. He cared more about pleasing his father than anything else. And his father didn't care about school, he didn't care about, you know, emotional relationships. He cared about, you know, being a man and drugs and racism and that kind of stuff. And while I enjoy that Mickey has learned to be more vulnerable, that he's learned to be able to express his feelings, it just, the scene where they're in Kevin V's house and they're talking about having a baby, I don't know, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Mickey says, what if I'm a bad dad? What if I beat the kid or something? And like, here's the thing. Mickey, he is a father, whether he likes it or not, whether he chooses to acknowledge it or not. And I know that Yevgeny is a product of rape. And I know that he was never necessarily a priority to Mickey, but when Mickey interacted with Yevgeny, he seemed good. You know, he seemed to take care of him like you should any other baby. And yes, Svetlana did the majority of the parenting, but for example, at the police station when Ian has kidnapped Yevgeny in season 5, he's like holding the baby, he's rocking the baby. He seems, did he forget about that? But I digress. Because it's not like Mickey's afraid of having kids because he associates children with his rape. It's that he's afraid of being a bad dad, and we know that he's not that. Because he could have chosen to not taking care of the baby. I mean, he was already he came out to his father in season 4, in the penultimate episode of season 4, and then throughout season 5, he was still taking care of the kid. He could have left. Anyway, that was another issue that I had. But let's talk about my biggest issue, and that is with Frank. Let's talk about the penultimate episode before we talk about the finale. Frank, where do I start? So, if you don't know, and I am putting spoilers in the title, Frank tries to kill himself in the penultimate episode. He tries to overdose on heroin after his body rejects alcohol. Now, throughout this season, the first half, they hint at his alcoholic dementia, and then about halfway through the season, we find out that he does indeed have alcoholic dementia. And if that's the way that he's going to die, I'm okay with that, because it's a main story plot, right? And I thought he died, and a lot of people thought he died in the penultimate episode. To find out that he lived, only to die of COVID within the last 5 minutes, boggles my mind. You set him up to die of alcoholic dementia just for Liam to spend the entire finale looking for Frank, only for us to not even see him find out that Frank has passed away. If Frank had died of alcoholic dementia, I would have been a lot happier. But as he's dying, you hear one of the nurses just mumble, he has COVID. And if they had, and I know that COVID can take people very quickly, but they had been leading up to something else the entire season, and I hate that they didn't go with it. They backed out at the last second, and I hate that. From a storytelling point, you don't want to do something like that. Also, something I've always loved about Shameless is that it was always rooted in reality. You know, all of the problems and all of the drama that these characters went through seemed plausible. They could really happen. And they did. They do happen to people all the time. You know, trying to think of a good example. And that did kind of fade over time, but in extreme circumstances, these were things that could happen, right? So, for example, when Liam got into the cocaine back in season 3 or 4, or whenever that was, when Lip started abusing alcohol, when Fiona started abusing alcohol, when Debbie's baby daddy got a new girlfriend, like, these were very hard to deal with ideas, but all realistic. They could all happen. Sure, there were things that don't seem as plausible, but absolutely things that could happen in extreme circumstances. When Carl's girlfriend, I forget what her name was, got Stockholm Syndrome because he was holding her in the basement. You know, when Frank and that girl went to South America because she was dying of cancer. When I'm trying to think of other examples, you know, like things that seem less realistic but still plausible in extreme circumstances. And if you've seen the finale, you know where I'm going with this. So as Frank is dying, his spirit is transported to the alibi. And at the alibi, they are having Ian and Mickey's anniversary party. It's their 1-year wedding anniversary. Everyone's having a good time, and Frank is sitting at the bar, his spirit sitting at the bar because he's passed away. And a car of some rich guy bursts into flames outside, and everyone goes outside and goes to shit on the rich guy, and they're watching this car burn. And Liam is the last to leave the bar, and he turns, and the seat that we see Frank had been sitting at is empty. And while everybody's standing outside watching this car burn, Frank floats away. His spirit floats away. And the last shot we get in the entire show is Frank in the sky. What the fuck? This show that was always so grounded in realism, the last shot we see is Frank's spirit in the sky. It really upset me. A show that I've poured my entire heart and soul into for the past 2 years. I only started watching it 2 years ago, and I'm already done. You know, I binge watched the entire thing in 6 months. Less than that even, I think. I love this show. This show means everything to me. And I loved it because it was so real, you know? It made the whole point, and I remember early on, people always talked about how watching Shameless made you feel better about yourself because these people were so fucked up. And it's true. It did. You know, as a queer kid who was in high school when I watched the majority of this show, I'm a freshman in college now, it hurt to see that this show that tackled topics that I personally dealt with, you know, that a lot of people deal with on a daily basis, ending on something like that. I don't like that none of them know that he died. I think that's my biggest issue with it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I will always have fond memories of this show. Like I said, it means everything to me. But finale wasn't it, Chief. Anyway, there are my thoughts on the Shameless series finale. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me rant for almost 20 minutes now. Yeah. That's it then, I guess. So I'm not making weekly videos anymore. I'm more working on long-form scripted essay content. But I promised an ending to my thoughts on Shameless season 11, and season 11 is over. So I figured I would do this while I work on my Scream retrospective, which will come eventually. Still on season 1, but it's fine. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.